If Donald Trump or his administration do it, it can't be illegal. Is that what the United States Supreme Court's going to ultimately say? That's what Donald Trump recently posted on his social media. J.D. Vance feels the same way. I'm not sure the Supreme Court does. We cover the Supreme Court on a weekly basis. Dina, Sayegh, Dahl, and me on a show we call Unprecedented, and now you know why. Here's a clip after dark version of Unprecedented.
And we'll talk a little bit about his specific case. But the idea is the separation of powers enshrined in the Constitution. Trump is violating the federal laws. It's all very clear that the firings have to be for cause. The question is, are these federal laws constitutional or not? And we've talked about this on another show. So if the Supreme Court is going to be the one that decides if this is a constitutional crisis, because are they going to side, let's say, with this unitary executive theory that Trump is acting under, that the majority of the court are strong believers on, think that the executive should do whatever they want, and that a lot of these congressional acts are like overstepping the authority and intruding on the authority of the executive. So if the Supreme Court changes, let's say, the interpretation of the Constitution and gives Trump and the executive more discretion, then that's a constitutional crisis maybe for people who don't believe the executive should have that power. But technically, that's not a constitutional crisis. It's just changing the interpretation of the Constitution. And the constitutional crisis is if Trump, just real fast, the real constitutional crisis would be if the Supreme Court says, not so fast, Trump, and limits it. And then the Trump administration tries to do what they want anyway.
Well, and to that point, you've got a new executive order in which Donald Trump declares that his legal opinion is basically as good as the Supreme Court and the court's legal opinion. He thinks he's on equal footing under our separation of power, co-equal branches of power, to announce what the law is. In fact, in order to continue to paralyze the cabinet, the departments and the agencies, he's basically said, you must go through me and Pam Bondi for all of your legal interpretations about your own regulations. And the question is, how are they ever going to be able to do that? And the answer is they're not. And that's what he wants. And he takes it literally. When you and I went to law school, we learned that the word opinion doesn't mean like an opinion like you and I might have. We have a difference of opinion.
Right.
When a judge rules, we just colloquially, and from a term of art, call it an opinion. But it's not really an opinion. It is the statement of the case. It is the rule of the law of the case. We're in a constitutional crisis right now because Donald Trump's not respecting the separation of powers. And he's playing a turf war with the Congress. But it's one-sided because Congress has no backbone, won't stand up to Donald Trump. And so he's going to take advantage and gain for himself in presidential power as much as possible. So what do you think? How do you think the Supreme? How do you've got?
I think that the Supreme Court, the more that J.D. Vance and the more executive orders Trump puts out, and the more photos of a king he puts out, he is going to make the Supreme Court, as much as they want the executive to have a lot of power, scared, because people don't like giving up their own power. And in order to really give Trump what he wants, the judges are giving up their power. And so they're going to have a delicate dance. And Sotomayor, in her recent talk, actually alluded to this. And she said that the Supreme Court, in a very elegant way, she said, was able to make a ruling regarding that whole Andrew Jackson issue without forcing him to do anything. And so I think the Supreme Court is going to do a dance like that. They're going to try to not give an order that maybe Trump is going to flout or not flout, but I do think they're going to maybe rein him in more than they would want to, because he's taking it so far. So the case that's coming probably the soonest. What this is, Hampton Dellinger, who you know, the Office of Special Counsel, who was created in 1978 under Carter in order to protect federal employees in terms of whistleblowers, in terms of just whether or not laws were being followed, like protections, right? And the civil service, the federal civil service. Trump fired him, even though the act says that he has to be fired with cause. Trump doesn't do it. So yet another example clearly violating federal law. What happened is the appellate court basically gave an administrative stay saying you cannot fire him yet. We have to take a look at the briefings, at the legal reasonings, and ultimately they might decide that Trump can or can't, right? And so the government is asking the Supreme Court to step in. Chief Justice Roberts is going to be the one, like we've talked about with all these different circuits. He could either decide or have the entire Supreme Court decide whether or not to allow this emergency appeal. If he doesn't allow the emergency appeal, this administrative stay, it's going to expire in a few days anyway. And that was really Hampton Dellinger's argument. Like, this is just a matter of few days. Do you really want a rocket docket? And he uses that term. Do you want constant rocket dockets? Why not let the lower courts flesh this out before you step into this? And this is going to be our first chance to see what the Supreme Court does, whether or not they step in or they say, go ahead, flush this issue out. But this is one of many that is going to come up in front of the Supreme Court. And I think this is the question for the Supreme Court this term. How strongly are they going to lean into their own personal beliefs that the executive should have a lot of power, knowing, because Trump is showing us, he's not hiding it, knowing how corruptly and how far they're willing to take this by really taking away not only power from Congress, but power from the judicial branch, because as they've said, they think that the judges even should be impeached or whatever if they don't follow what Trump wants.
Welcome back. We've got some amazing original content here on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Take a minute, hit the subscribe button, and join us on Unprecedented once a week, right all the way, all around the year, everything at the Supreme Court, around the Supreme Court, from ethics scandals to oral arguments to rulings to what we expect to happen with emergency applications. We do it right here, only exclusively on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. In addition, we've got a whole other great set of commentators and contributors like Court Accountability Action, Lisa Graves and Alex Aronson, and Mike Sack. And we've also got Shan Wu over here as well, former prosecutor. Amazing work that he does. So until my next reporting, my next Unprecedented, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.